as my collection grew and as time went on, and I found myself going back to older entertainment and movies I grew up with, and B movies I remember watching on Joe Bob Briggs and Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried's TV shows, I realized that these movies are special. Hello, fellow followers, and welcome back to FanZcene. And today I have for you a little story video on why I collect and support physical media. I'm not really going to use any B-roll footage in this, but I hope you can just, sit back, relax, and listen to my little story of why I collect and why I support. And I'm going to take you back to when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, the very first movie I vividly remember seeing in any way, shape, or form was Superman the movie. That movie blew my mind as a kid. It's probably one of my all-time, if not my favorite movie. It's just something about that movie. It compelled me. The colors, the story, the characters, the acting. Christopher Reeve to me was Superman, always will be Superman. And thanks to that movie, it led me down the path of my nerdiness and basically why I am the way I am, because I consider it my gateway movie, because through that movie, I spawned a love for sci-fi, horror, comic books, Superman, and entertainment action movies of all types, because, it was just something about that movie and I wanted to see more like that. So from there, when I was old enough to realize, what movies were, what entertainment was, and as video stores began to pop up, I would beg my parents to take me to the video store, get a membership card. I believe we probably had like 5 membership cards at one time, because I would have us go to all the video stores, the Mom and Pops, Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, everything. And then, from there I would rent all these movies, and then I would have them take me to the comic books, because also when I talk about physical media, I don't just mean Blu-rays, DVDs, VHSs, and stuff like that. I also mean like comic books. I mean books. I mean CDs. I mean vinyl. Anything that's physical and tangible in the world of media, because there was always something about just having a physical copy that I always loved and I always enjoyed. And I didn't realize I was collecting at the moment, because, as I was renting and then as I was buying comic books, and then, from moving on from renting, I wanted to own these movies that I kept getting over and over and over. And so I started having my parents buy the VHS, buy the copies, and then, mostly as I was growing up, it was mostly the mainstream type movies, because that's basically what I was into at that time. And, for better or worse, the mainstream movies back in the day were actually really great movies. There were so many of them that you could love and enjoy. There was just like movie after movie that was just so good and so entertaining. There were no message-driven type things or stuff being forced down your throat, or that you were aware of at the time. So you would rent these and buy these movies. Well, I would rent these and buy these movies, and I would just love them and I would enjoy them. And I started to really, as the older I got, I started to realize I was amassing quite a collection of VHSs, which I didn't realize I was actually collecting at the time, VHSs or comic books, because that's like the two things I was into. And so, I still have my comic books, they're over there, and as you know, I still have my physical media. But then, along came the advancement in DVD, and I still actually have the very first DVD I ever bought, and that would be right here, Ready to Rumble. I was big into wrestling in the early 90s, and this was just something really funny, and I don't know why. It was just the very first DVD I bought after we bought our very first DVD player. And throughout the years, I slowly began buying different type DVDs than I did on my VHS, because with the advance of DVD, I started buying other movies that I didn't quite get on VHS. And then sadly, I did eventually get rid of all my VHS tapes from when I was growing up, and most of them I had recouped on DVD, and I started buying other DVDs. And around this time is when I started getting into like the late night cable aspect of things, like Monster Vision and Up All Night with Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried, and horror movies, because my older brother was into horror. He liked Freddy. A Nightmare on Elm Street was his favorite, and I sort of got into those around that time, and especially with Scream coming out. Not that I hadn't been into them. I had, I grew up watching them here and there, but I was like fully started, as I got older, I fully got into them. I saw some maybe way too young, but then I started to get into them, and I started to enjoy the, like the cult classic B movies on late night cable, and I never really started purchasing them till I got a lot older, because I started thinking back on them, and I wanted to know if I could find them, because I didn't really I remember renting like the Toxic Avenger and like the Necronomicon and some like those other like obscure titles that you really couldn't find at like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster at the mom and pops. But I don't, and I remember watching them on like those late night cable shows, like I said. But I never really, I don't know, for whatever reason, I never bought those at the time. So I started to buy them as the advance of Blu-ray came in, not long after that Blu-ray came in. And, that's when I sort of got into the whole boutique side of things because it started coming on stronger. And, I started getting into the boutique Blu-rays, Shout Factory, Scream Factory. That was like my number one. That was like my gateway into boutique Blu-rays. And it seems like, the movies and stuff that starts with S tend to be my gateway, like Superman the movie, and then Scream was sort of like a gateway into more horror, and then Scream Factory and Shout Factory was my, gateway into boutique Blu-rays, and from there I found Kino Lorber, Vinegar Syndrome, which, Alien from LA right here, Vinegar Syndrome, great title, great obscure title, great cult classic, cheesy B movie. I love those. I love cheesy B movies, and I never realized how much I loved them until till recently, as I started looking back on some of these that I bought and thought about and that I grew up with. I really, really love them. And there's just something about cheesy B movies and horror movies and action flicks and sci-fi flicks and, the boobs aspect and all that. There's something about those that just really grab you and take you in. And it's gotten so much better than modern entertainment. And not to harp too much on, how bad modern entertainment is today. Oftentimes I'm told, or that it seems like I've outgrown modern entertainment. I'm too old for it. Once you get into your 30s, it's not made for you anymore. I find that bullcrap, that excuse. Maybe today I am, maybe some entertainment I am too old for, and maybe, yes, these movies aren't made for me anymore. But it's not because I'm too old, because I can vividly remember going to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in 2002 into the theater, and there was an old man there, at least in his 60s, maybe 70s, and he was wearing a Spider-Man shirt, and this was not like a Walmart Spider-Man shirt. This was like an old school, hardcore Spider-Man t-shirt, and he absolutely and thoroughly enjoyed that movie. Now, you can argue that that movie wasn't made for him, but isn't entertainment supposed to be made for people of all ages, men, women, and children? Yes, there's varying degrees of kids movies are made for kids movies, adult movies are made for adult movies, rated R movies are made for a certain group, or horror movies are made for this. But isn't movies to get back to like the mainstream, like the franchise, like superhero movies, like Star Wars and all them, aren't those supposed to be made for everybody? It's not so much that I think we've outgrown them. I think the people making them don't understand the audience anymore, and they're not really making them for those fans, for the audience anymore, for that old man anymore, because they only have two things on their mind: kids, so they can sell the toys and all that, and a group of people that just for messaging, basically, and that really don't support these movies in return, and that's why they're losing so much money, because they don't go back for repeat viewings like true fans and people who grew up with them. But anyways, back to physical media. That's why I continue to support physical media, because if I would have known where we are at today, like with how streaming came along and killed the video stores, and then how streaming is sort of also killing the theater going experience, and how streaming is also killing movies that maybe you remember growing up with, because they're editing them, they're changing them, they're replacing scenes, they're removing scenes, they're telling you what you can and cannot see. So that's why I continue to support physical media, because as my collection grew and as time went on, and I found myself going back to older entertainment and movies I grew up with, and B movies I remember watching on Joe Bob Briggs and Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried's TV shows, I realized that these movies are special. These movies won't get a second chance a lot of times. They won't get a lot of more releases than the releases they're getting now. So I would say support it, collect what you like, buy what you want, because that's a great way to get what you want. Like, I watched a really great video by Serial at Midnight recently where he talked about some movies that will never get Blu-rays or 4Ks. There's so many reasons, which you guys should check out the video. I'll probably put a link down below for you guys so you can check out that video. He makes some great points why we'll never get them, but he also makes some great points like if you really want that old TV show from the past, or if you really want that old movie from the past, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, that you really want to buy and you're wondering why that's not put out yet, well, you have to buy when they put it out. If they do put it out on a DVD, if they do put it out on a Blu-ray, you have to buy that, because sales do matter. So if you buy that, then you're more likely to get, from a DVD to a Blu-ray, from a Blu-ray to a 4K, because they'll see how much that sells. You can't just skimp out on it, say you want it, and then when they release it, not buy it, because then why would they release it again? So that's why I support it. You support it so you can have what you have, so it's yours, so you can't be told you can't watch it, you can't see the scene, you can't hear this, you can't do that, and also so that you can have that forever, because you never know if it will ever come back around again. And that's also why I sort of got back into VHSs too, because I find titles that aren't on Blu-ray, that aren't on DVD, that aren't on 4K, and that may never be. So I find those VHSs and I pick them up and I do watch them. So I've gotten back into VHSs from going from TV, from Superman to VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to 4K, which I've started buying now, which you see this awesome 4K of Superman, looks beautiful, and back to VHS again too, but collecting them all together, along with vinyl, along with CDs, along with my old comic books, because new comic books, once again, like modern entertainment, are not good. So I go back to my old school comic books that I like, but I haven't really bought comics in a long time. But that's why I collect and support physical media. I hope I explained that in a good way. I hope you guys got a little something out of that, and I hope you enjoyed the story. And let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Why do you collect? Why do you support physical media? And just leave me some comments, because I like reading through them and seeing what you guys think. And if you like this video, please give it a like. If I earned your subscription, that's awesome. Please subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. I would truly appreciate that. I thank you guys for watching. Please share this video out for everybody to see. Please support physical media. Please have a great, safe, happy, healthy day, morning, afternoon, evening, and night. Godspeed.